Hi, and welcome to this live reading from the Arsonist's Handbook, a gripping psychological thriller by L.A. Detwiler. And this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Prologue. The boy's screams echoed on the chilled autumn air, a desperate raven's song resonating in the desolation of the field. His shrieks sounded more feminine than male. The commotion was pointless. No one heard him beg for his life, and no one who would save him anyway. He perused the boy's body as sobs racked him, sneering, hands in his pockets as he stood over the flailing boy. He realized he felt nothing. Drowned in a sea of apathy brought on by circumstance, by time, by choices that both were and weren't his own, he deadened inside. Perhaps he was too far gone after all. A few months ago there might have been hope. He might not have handled the situation with gasoline, terror, and a frenzied desire for burning flesh. His stomach would have turned at the thought of blackened skin and melting faces and death. He possessed his share of demons, certainly. Always had. Nonetheless, they were fiends that could be calmed, could be stowed away at least. These latest demons were of the soul-shattering variety. He used to be a mostly good person. That person expired with the tragedy that forever morphed him. Circumstance, time, and sorrow metamorphosize even the most steadfast heroes eventually. The field sat empty, save for the two of them, the victim and the murderer, the lost and the found, the prey and the hunter. But who was who? It was impossible to tell anymore. The moonlight illuminated his pleading eyes, which incited an even stronger version of the primal hunger within. He needed to see him beg. He reveled in the sound of his jagged breaths as he realized his time to meet death had come. It wasn't a good way to die. After all, he knew this all too well. The images that haunted his dreams and his nightmares reminded him of the terrors of it all. And in the sick depths of his soul he extended gratitude for the searing pain the boy would endure. He deserved it. He fucking deserved it. Thus, without another thought, he doused the hoodie in gasoline, sprinkling it all over his victim recklessly but with purpose. He stepped back, wondering if the whole field would burn until they found him, considering how fast he would get away, or he even should. It didn't matter anymore. He'd lost it all. This was all he needed now. From a distance, he flicked the lighter, thinking about stepping toward the fireball and ending it with him. But the shrieks that were more supernatural than humanistic sent a shiver of delight through him. He stared as it all ended quickly but beautifully, the conflagration sparking something even darker within him. Dazzled by the blaze, he almost forgot to move. He didn't expect this. After all that had happened, he could have never expected to feel the overwhelming relief as the fire burned. Hope, peace, gratitude. These were the emotions that filled him now and validated it all. It had been worth it. It was worth every ounce of effort for the precious release he could finally indulge in. With the smell of burning flesh and misery cutting through the autumn wind, he turned and marched through the forest. He left the clearing to burn. Let it burn. Let them burn. Let it all burn, he thought as he whistled his favorite song. Peace had, after all, come at last. The stars twinkled, he noticed with a grin. The boy would agree if his eyes were still able to see the sky. Rule 1. Flames don't need a reason to burn. I sometimes wonder what drives me to the flame, to the striking of the match, to the inhalation of ecstasy-spreading smoke. I wonder if, like Plato or Aristotle, I was born to be different, to stray from the crowd. I've always felt alone, been alone, sauntered this world alone. Don't pity me, though. I prefer it that way. In truth, it's been my choice to traverse this world in solitude. Partially, it's because even as a child I noticed the differences between myself and the others. It was always me versus the others. Now I'm a stronger force to play against. Sometimes I think perhaps I inherited a madness passed on through the generations. Some families pass on the family trade of law, or baking, or farming. Our family, we passed down the flame, a literal torch handed off how many times? Once, twice? I can't be sure. In the darkest of times, though, I decide I'm overthinking it all, as I tend to do, trying to seek meaning in a dark winter night full of pointless observations and time. There is no rhyme or reason to the way I am. It's damn fun to set fire, to watch the almighty beauty and power of the lapping flames. I remember the first one like it was yesterday. If I close my eyes and lean back, I can still smell the scorched hair from the cat's carcass. I can still imagine the sight of the flame seizing the corpse, of it turning to brittle ash. I was 7 when I first felt the pull of the fire, a curious child with a penchant for death and a fancy for watching things burn. Maybe it was because my father had taken such care to teach me how to start a fire when I was only 5. He was a survivalist by nature, having come from a difficult part of the world where one never knew when such skills would be necessary. Or maybe innate curiosity bubbled in me, like Shakespeare must have felt for plays and Einstein for numbers. Or maybe I'm kidding myself. Maybe I'm a monster, a modern Frankenstein creation born and raised to be a scourge to the human race. Whatever it was, though, that first monumental time I purposely set fire to the body, I was entranced, hypnotized, obsessed. I would sneak out of the house at night, crawling down the steep roof outside my bedroom window to escape to my hidden refuge, a derelict shed in the forest beyond our property. There, behind the shoddy walls, I would play and burn and practice. I kept it controlled, and that in itself delighted me, to be able to have some form of power in a house where I had none. Daddy taught me helpful skills, but he also taught me how to fear. When his crazed temper wasn't unleashed at home, he was out for the night, giving free rein to his temper on the town. It took me years to discover that the nights he wasn't home were the nights he was practicing our dark craft. When I was older, 14 or 15, he let me in on the secret. By that time, I had sinister secrets of my own. We were, and always will be, a family who likes to burn. We watch it burn. We set it ablaze. We incite fear from the shadows and spark horror with the flick of a wrist. And it is from those years I've learned to master the craft. There is an art to it, certainly, one underappreciated perhaps. Or maybe it is misunderstood like so many things in life. Still, over the years, as my conquests by flame have grown larger, I've learned fire burns no matter what. At first, it's true, it started with curiosity. The wicked brightness of the flame consumed me. Then, in my teens, it turned into a way to handle vendettas. I saw myself as the Robin Hood of arson. I set wrongs right with ash. I emblazoned the community's scoundrels and cheats. I sought revenge on those who made me stay on the fringes, who made my life hell for being different. I was a hero in my own way and in my own story. I'd like to think that was what Daddy was doing during his triumphs with fire, too. I'm not sure that's true. Quickly, nevertheless, the heroism melted along with the burning plastic and rubber. It lost its shimmer, its attractiveness. Suddenly I was out of rebels to make pay, but still starving to see the flames grow bigger. I had an addiction only satisfied by one thing: fire. Uncontainable fire. That was when the switch happened. The first fire I lit purely for fun. It was at McMullen's place, a large barn on the outskirts of town. Late at night I crept onto their property, inebriation dulling my sense of logic. God, the flames dazzled. I had no reason to burn down the McMullen's place. John McMullen had been nothing but kind to me, I suppose. He always stopped by to purchase produce when I worked my family's stand, and he often floated me a few extra dollars. I should feel shame about what I did to him, about his wife's tears at church the following Sunday over all they lost. And maybe I did. A little bit. Something panged in my chest as I watched him wrap an arm around her in weakly applied comfort. But then I thought of the sight of the barn ablaze. The mighty fortress crumbled after a few dainty flicks of my wrist. I, in truth, didn't feel shame or guilt. I felt like God. After all, fire doesn't need a reason to burn. It doesn't seek justice. It doesn't weigh the heavy hand of what's right or wrong. It simply consumes, chasing its sole mission of destruction. There's something magnificent about that, something that seemingly leaps from the flames into my soul. It emboldens me, the idea of being so unwaveringly focused on your goal. There's real authority in that truth. The power is, I must warn you, all-consuming. Once you flick your wrist, once you spark that first conflagration, there's no going back. There is no going back. Fire doesn't need a reason to burn, and neither does the true arsonist. Even when you watch from a distance, you can feel the veracity in the power of the flame.